What is your name?
Bella.
Is that all the name that you want to give?
Yes.
How old are you?
I am 34.
And how would you identify yourself with any kind of identity markers you'd like to provide?
I am a 30-something queer black femme.
With the perfect skin for color tattoos.
Yes. And someone getting tattooed by you.
So how did you find me?
I think on Instagram, but a very long time ago.
Tell me about that.
I don't know. I think you just came up on my feed and I was like, oh, I like this person's work. And then I just kind of like watched it evolve over the years. And then I was like, eventually I'm going to get a tattoo from this person. But I was like, a student. I was going to community college and couldn't afford any tattoo. And I had a tattoo I didn't love that I wanted and had an idea for, and your work looked perfect for it. So I just waited, and then eventually, I think, early mid last year, I was like, oh yeah, that person.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know when you emailed me, you were like, what did you say? You were like, I've been stalking your work, admiring your work. It was something like that for a bunch of years. And I was like, wow, that's so cool that you've been
a fan
for a while.
Yeah.
Which is just a weird concept to me, because I get that when you're doing something creative and you put it out online and you have people following you that you don't know that happens, but it's just such a weird concept. It continues to be, no matter how long I've been doing this.
That's exciting, but also scares me about the internet.
I know. Yeah. It's true.
Any picture I post of myself, there's probably some weirdo who has it printed out and pasted on their bathroom ceilings or something.
And they're on the ceiling of their bedroom, probably.
Right. Yeah.
That is a strange thing about the internet. It's you just don't know where your stuff ends up.
Yeah.
And then you get surprised.
Yeah.
And with the podcast too, people tell me that they'll be like, oh, my friend listens to your podcast. And I'll be like, I have no idea who your friend is. Yeah. Which is just from my side, it doesn't look like, I assume that everybody who follows me or listens to me or anything just knows me. And that's why they do that, because they know me. But that's not always true.
No, probably. Yeah. And the bigger it gets, you won't know most of the people eventually.
I mean, it's not getting bigger.
Yeah. Well, it might.
It might someday.
Yeah. I've told some people about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Please do.
Yeah.
And then they'll hear you on it.
Gosh, I can't listen to my own voice, so I'll skip that one.
But people who you've told to listen to should listen.
Yeah, they probably will.
So the previous iteration of your back tattoo that we've been working on.
Yes.
Tell me about getting that.
I got it in London when I was 17. And it was a doodle that I drew, and then I have a friend who's a lot more creative than me, and he redrew it, and it was very pretty. And I was in London, and I was just visiting some family in Germany, but we just stopped in London for a week just to do some traveling. And I went to a tattoo shop, which is kind of a big tattoo shop now. It's called Frith Street.
I feel like I followed artists from there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just a kid's doodle basically. And I didn't hate it. I just, it didn't really resonate with me anymore. So I was like, I'll cover it up with something that feels more me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you like abstract art? Do you also like to look at it? In museums?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I'm a very sophisticated art person. So I just know what I like. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is anybody a very sophisticated art person?
Some people know a lot about art.
Well, there's like the knowing like who this person is and where they came from and how they got to do their style. But then there's also like, just like things make you feel things or they don't.
Yeah. I'm running purely on vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody is, but they don't admit it.
Yeah, maybe.
Like including like things like wine.
Perhaps.
But they just don't admit it. They don't own it.
I'm quick to believe people. If you tell me like you're an expert on wine, I'm like, well, I'm not, so I believe you.
What would be a thing that somebody was like, I'm an expert on this, and you'd be like, are you though?
I don't know. I guess things that no one can really be an expert on.
Like what?
Religion.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Like big encompassing things.
Yeah.
So you're talking about traveling in Europe. Have you spent a lot of time in Europe?
Yeah, I've lived off and on. Yeah, my mom is from former Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I lived there when I was a kid, and then moved to, well, I was born in the United States, and then the war broke out in Yugoslavia, and my mom moved us all there to run like a humanitarian organization, and she was bringing injured refugees back to the United States for medical treatment. So we were there during several of the war years, and then moved back here to the United States, and I just went back to visit. And then when I was 19, I moved back over there for 4 years or so.
Why? What were you seeking?
I kind of just wanted to travel for a summer and then think about maybe what I wanted to do with my life after that. I had gone to beauty school, and I was like working as a hairdresser, and I was like, this is like not a job I want to do forever, but it's like something that could put me through school and something I could do while traveling. So I just saved like a little bit of money, and then I went over there and just didn't come back for several years.
Did you cut hair there?
Yeah, but not like in a salon.
Like at people's homes?
Yeah, kind of. I started to work in a hostel, and I was mostly just like working as like the receptionist and the person who takes people on pub crawls. And then I had like my hair cutting stuff, and like, you know, people who are backpacking or need haircuts. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were excited that, yeah. So it was just kind of a side gig over there.
So I'm curious, like, if you were doing that kind of like based on like just trust, like you were meeting people and they were like, oh, you cut hair, like cut my hair. Mm-hmm. And you're not white. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming most of those people wear white. Like, was there anything like where they were like, but your hair is black hair, and like, do you know how to cut white people? Like, was there anything like that you experienced?
Not
there's
really.
So many more assumptions.
Maybe
in Eastern
kind
Europe.
Of the opposite. Like, yeah. I feel like people like are like, oh, you have a really difficult to work with hairstyle, so you're like an extra expert, which is not true. But yeah,
I feel like people mostly assume that they're people of their own type of hair or whatever that like would be the expert in like their type of hair.
Yeah, maybe.
But I was just curious, like the social dynamics of that.
Yeah, I guess I never really got, or maybe I just didn't pick up on it or notice it. I was never like really good at cutting hair. I just like, it was a thing I learned to do. And to be honest, I liked braiding a lot more. Mm-hmm. And it was easier because I could just take like one client a day, and it would take all day. And yeah.
What about spending all that time with one client? How's that?
Depends on the client, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had, I guess by the time I was not doing it anymore, like phasing out of it, because I was getting close to graduating from college, most of my clients were like my friends. So, yeah.
You like work the way that I work.
Yeah.
So you were there you said for 4 years, from 19 to 23?
Ooh.
Is that what you said? I don't know if
maybe I was 18.
Extrapolating from what you said.
Yeah, maybe it was 3 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was life like? Like, so you were working in this hostel and cutting hair?
Yeah, I Like, I was just kind of like going with whatever was thrown at me. Like, I just like went there, spent some time on the beach, and then I went to like the capital city where my family lives. I hung out with them for a bit, and they were a little bit like controlling about like where I travel and like that I'm traveling alone. And they were like, you know, we were your parents who would never let you do this. And I'm like, well, you're not, so I'm leaving. And they just would get really weird. So I was like, well, I need to like, if I'm going to stay here for a little bit, maybe I should get like some temp housing, like, you know, rent an apartment for a month or something. And I met some people on couch surfing, and we went to a party, and then I stayed the night at one of their houses. We all stayed there, like just on a big couch, and we've been friends ever since. And I eventually got an apartment with one of them.
That's awesome. I remember when couch surfing became a thing.
Yeah.
I was doing a bit of traveling then too.
Yeah. I didn't like mean to use it to actually couch surf. I just was like, I want to hang out with people who live here that aren't like other hostile backpacker people.
But like local people.
Right, yeah, because like I feel like this weird, like half my family's from here, so like am I a real tourist? But I am here doing tourist stuff. Like, yeah, I just want to hang out with like real people. And so I used it to kind of like meet up with people from the area and yeah, have people to go out and party with. I feel like couch surfing was also really queer then, so it was...
I never used it, I just knew about it, but it felt scary to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't really use it, I just kind of wanted to use it, but I didn't.
I think I should have been more scared than I was, but I got lucky because I met up with like a man, like a guy, and he was like, yeah, let's meet up, we'll go to this party. And I'm like a child, right? I'm 19, and I'm like, totally sounds great.
Yeah.
And then we meet up to have like a couple of drinks beforehand, and he brings like several female friends, and he's like, I didn't want you to be scared. So I think I got really lucky.
That's cool. And that's like, the guy you're still friends with?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was the queer part? You said like it was really queer. You met a bunch of queer folks through that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they were running kind of like a gallery, a kind of like a queer party space in like a squat house. It was like...
What city are we talking about?
Zagreb in Croatia. It's definitely very like crusty Balkan. Yeah. Yeah.
But you didn't stay at the squat. You like...
No, I didn't. That's never been my vibe.
I mean, I could see you like trying it out just to see what it was like.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would like hang out with a lot of those types of folks, but I'm too much of a brat.
Like you need a nice shower, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think that's bratty. I had a little bit of that too, hanging out with a bunch of crusty punks in a squat in New York when I was 19.
Yeah.
And when did you realize you're queer?
I don't know.
Like
I really don't know. I think like it was pretty normalized growing up. Like not just like, I don't know, accepted, but like just normalized. So it was, I don't think I ever like came out to anyone in my family. It was just like...
But when did you sort of come out to yourself? Or like was there... I feel like, okay, when you're growing up queer, especially in a place that there are no other visible queer people and that's not a conversation, that there's this moment where you realize that what you're experiencing isn't what everybody else is experiencing. You know, like the feelings I had or the sexual, like young sexual feelings I had were not like other people's. And I didn't think about it then. But then later, maybe in high school, I'd be like, oh, I'm different from like the rest of these people.
Yeah. I feel like I missed a little bit of that experience, I guess, because like maybe when I was a child in Croatia, I just was like not at all a sexual being yet because I didn't know, right? I didn't think about it. And then by the time I was in middle school, like all of my friends' group was queer. And at home, like it was like, you know, not a thing at all. Like
middle school was here in the States?
Yes. So like it wasn't like any of the people around me were not queer, if
Wait,
that makes
but like
sense.
your middle school friends were queer. I'm like, that's blowing my mind. Like nobody in middle school was out as anything
Yeah.
except straight. Like people were just straight.
Yeah.
Did you go to big school?
No. This is kind of a loaded question. I went to, let me think, 5 elementary schools and 3 middle schools. So,
Oh shit.
but I mean, I guess maybe like the middle school I went to, I don't know, when is puberty? 7th grade.
Yeah, 7th grade, like 12,
Yeah.
12, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when all of my friends were like, you know, queer.
Mm-hmm.
And so
But how did you collect them? Or did you just like fall into the group?
I just fell into the group.
Okay.
I think it was like, you know, having switched schools a whole bunch, like I just fell into like a little misfit group, which was just the queers, you know?
Yeah, but then also like you were like kind of an immigrant, like sort of, and
Yes.
you're black. Like were they just queer and white? Like was there more diversity in the group? I feel like when you're an immigrant, it's like such a different layer. But then when you also add race on top, right? It's like another layer.
Yeah. There weren't any black people except me, for sure. But many of the people that I was friends with then that were either like queer or gay or bi are adults now, and a lot of them are trans. So I think like we're all on different identity journeys, although like I've been pretty obviously black the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still friends with them?
Yeah. Yeah. One of them I actually kind of followed to the Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you still friends now?
Yeah, they moved away though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are they now?
Oregon.
Where the queers go. Often.
Yes.
What was the like moving back and forth to and from Croatia like?
I kind of had no control over it, and it was like pretty normal based on how much we moved when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't think I thought about it too much until I was an adult.
But when you got there at like 18 and 19, was there a sense with it when you like arrived and you were like, did it feel like home in some way that the States wasn't? Or
I think I probably hoped it did, but it did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how come you stayed so long?
I made some really good friends, and I didn't really have like a strong plan for my next steps. And yeah.
What made you want to leave?
I mean, I knew I would eventually leave. I kind of felt like I was just going to stay until it felt like the right time to.
So what was the catalyst?
And go to school. I don't know. Things started to feel a little bit stagnant there. Like it didn't feel like there were many opportunities for me, and I think I kind of felt like a little bit antsy to do something with, myself. Yeah.
Do you have dual citizenship?
Yes, I do.
Do you feel like you could eventually go and live there again or no?
No, there's no black people there. Yeah.
Is it part of European Union?
It is. It was not then, but it is now.
Would you go live in Europe someday?
No.
There's no black people there?
There's some. Yeah, I mean, like, the culture here is important to me. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What part of the culture?
I don't know. I want to stay like plugged in with my community, and I want to. I don't know.
What's your community?
I guess like the local black community. I want to stay plugged in with. Yeah.
By local, you mean here, Oakland?
Here in Oakland. Yeah, this is home now. And I think like I finished school like 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. So I don't really have like, any equity, but I want to definitely participate in some mutual aid and just be an active part of my community. If that makes sense. Yeah.
So what happened when you came back?
I came back and I was before that living in the Seattle area. So I went back there and I was like, man, this sucks. Now I see why I left. And I
Why did you
immediately moved to the Bay.
Why did it suck? What part of it?
It's so cold, like bitingly cold a lot of the time there. And I think the area is really white and I just felt out of place a lot there. And I think I didn't have like, a lot of my friends had moved, several to the Bay, and it was mostly like, I don't know, frenemies there. Like, I was hanging out with just people who made me feel bad about myself, and I was like, I gotta get out of here, this sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you kind of like followed people to the Bay that you knew there.
Yeah. And my brother lived in the Bay, so I was like, I can just have him drive up with a truck. And I have been overseas for several years, so I don't really have anything. Yeah.
So then when you moved here, how did you settle? Like, how was it? Was it a warm welcome?
Yeah, I stayed with my brother and his wife. And
In SAC?
No, they were in San Francisco, and then, the baby was going to get ready to start going to school, so they moved to Walnut Creek. So I stayed with them there for a little bit. And then I eventually got my own place in Oakland. Yeah.
Are you still in the same place?
No. So I moved around Oakland a fair amount. And I lived in Alameda for a few years, just kind of around the Bay a bunch. But yeah, I was in Mountain View somewhere recently. Now I'm back in Oakland. Yeah.
And you went to school?
Yes.
In STEM?
Yeah, I started at Laney College, the community college. And I was kind of just thinking of taking a variety of classes to see what I like. And I was like, well, I know I'm smart. I feel like, I want to do something ambitious. So I'll just like start on like a pre-med track. And yeah, I just really quickly realized I didn't like biology very much, but I was good at chemistry and math. So I was like, let's just see where this goes. Yeah.
And where did it go?
I transferred to Berkeley, chemistry. Yeah, I did some research there. I really liked that. Got a couple of scholarships. I got a corporate sponsorship from the place I work at now, which is kind of my shoe-in to work there.
How does that work? They gave you money to go to school?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't really know. I was like applying to a bunch of scholarships, and I think this one like slipped in. I didn't realize necessarily all that came with it. I was just like, yeah, I need money to go to school. I'm going to just apply to all the scholarships. And then someone from the company called me and was like, oh, I'm your corporate sponsor, so I'm going to check in with you about like how school's going, how your grades are doing, what do you want to do with your future? Here's my advice.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I have, chemistry dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, eventually I finished, and then I called him up and was like, how about a job?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then he was like, let me see what I can do.
He was, I guess, like switching out of the department. He still works there actually. And he just like passed me off to another person who invited me to the company and for like a tour. And I was like, wow, pharma seems nice. And then
tell me more. What was so nice about it? What attracted you?
I don't know that this would be like super interesting to many of your listeners.
But the details are what's interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
So I was like doing research in a lab at Berkeley, which was like a public school. So like funding's not great. And so the equipment is a little bit janky. And there's a lot of inefficiencies. And like, yeah, I went to this big pharmaceutical company to tour, and they showed me like how they approach research and like what tools are available to them. And it's they have a lot more money. So it was just like, you know, like starry-eyed that I don't have to like hunt for my own chemicals or glassware, and that, you know, people deliver things to you and clean up after you, and all of the equipment's brand new. And
nice.
Yeah, you don't have to share things really.
You have like your own setup of whatever you need.
Yeah, it just seemed really fancy. And like, I was like, oh, you can get so much done like this. Like, yeah. Yeah.
So then how, like you were out of school, right, in your 20s, and you kind of had this like in with them. Did you negotiate like the terms of your agreement with them? Like what was that like? Or did they just hire you because they had kind of knew you already?
No. So it's a little bit of like an involved interview process. And I was not in my 20s.
You weren't? You were in your 30s?
Yes.
Okay. I lost some of the timeline between the 18 and the...
Oh, so yeah, I mean, when I was in school, I didn't like go to school for 4 years. I went to school for 8 years. I dropped out a few times.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had dropped out of high school, so I didn't know anything. I had to retake a lot of stuff. It took a long time.
So because you had gone to beauty school before you went to Croatia, and then you were there for a few years cutting hair, essentially, and then you came back and you kept cutting hair and going to school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of cutting hair to put myself through school, and then when I'd like run out of money, I'd like leave school, work a little bit more full time, come back. Yeah.
Cool.
And I, since I dropped out of high school, like I had to take like 5 years of math just to like even begin upper division chemistry classes.
Like 5 whole years of math classes? Damn.
Yes, every semester, including the summer.
How did you not get like over it? How were you not like, oh my God, I'm going to do something a little bit easier, or that requires less school or like less classes?
I guess I just like took a math class and I was like, man, I hate this. I suck at this. And then I got like a very good grade. And then that happened again. And then I just was like, I think I like math.
Okay.
I don't really know why, like why I thought I didn't. Yeah.
Why'd you drop out of high school?
A lot of reasons.
That you don't want to speak to on the podcast?
Maybe. Yeah.
I can cut anything out that you don't want out there.
Yeah, just tough childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I guess I don't mind sharing this. Like, it's a little bit hard to like finish high school when you've gone to 5 elementary schools and 3 middle schools. It's a little hard to have any like continuity with your education or even take it seriously. Yeah.
Makes sense. Did you end up going to only one high school after all of that moving?
I started at one high school and dropped out in my freshman year. But it's like, I feel like I just don't feel like I had like a very good chance, right? Because of how much moving I'd done. Because like, I knew I was like a smart person then. I just like I just didn't have the capacity to like focus on school. There's too much chaos. Yeah.
Like in your home, in your life?
Yeah, and just like, you know, each place I moved, you're at a different level in each school. So I'd like, you know, be in one class at one school and then I'd move to a different area where like the expectation is that you're, you know, 2 levels ahead or behind, right? Which is like the continuity was just, it sucked and I had no idea what was going on most of the time.
But you were like 14. What, freshman is like 14, 15 years old. What did you do once you dropped out? Sort of like jump back and forth around your life.
No, that's okay.
What were your days like once you dropped out of high school?
I worked at a coffee shop and at a juice bar and at a gym.
Did they know that you were like a child?
Yes, they did. And I was working there legally. I just dropped out and they knew that. And yeah.
Did you like live on your own then?
No, I moved out. I think I was 17 when I moved out. Yeah, I worked at like 3 different jobs. I saved for a car. I saved a bunch of money to move out. And then I eventually did move out while I was in beauty school. And I lived with a friend in a shitty apartment in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to your 30s. Yes. You got this job after like a lengthy...
Yeah, you have to like do a seminar for the department.
Like you have to teach a seminar to prove that you know shit?
It's not really like teach, so like you have to have research experience in order to like, you know, work in the research field at your college. So like I had been in a lab doing that, and you have to present your research. It's like, you know, half hour or so seminar, and then you have a full day of kind of interviews. So it's like either like one-on-one with like a director or like two-on-one with other like scientists. Yeah. And then at the end of your day, they get together. You're not there for this part, but now I'm on the other side, so I do that. And they, you know, talk about the interview, how it went, what they like about you, what they didn't like about you, and they vote whether to hire you or not.
What was your seminar on?
Mine was on the research I'd done at Berkeley, which was with like a graduate student there, and it was some organic chemistry. Yeah. The field that I was in was total synthesis, which basically means that you're making like, I don't know, a compound, a chemical from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it's like useful in medicine or...
Yeah, it could be like, I guess in the academic area, it doesn't necessarily have to have any useful utility, or it's kind of an educational thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like a lot of colleges will do like a total synthesis of something just because it's really interesting or hard, right? Yeah.
And they were impressed with your synthesis.
I guess, yeah.
Is like people who are trying to get hired, all of their different research, is it all pretty much similar in the similar fields, or is it different?
We definitely like favor people from specific backgrounds, like at least academically, but yeah, there's like definitely sort of a formula for the type of experience that you need to have had. But yeah, some of them are really different to me. You know, I go to some candidate seminars now still, and I don't know what's going on at all. Like, yeah.
So then what do you go on vibes when you're voting?
No, if I'm part of their like interview, like panel, basically, like if I'm meeting with them, then I'll ask them a bunch of questions, like, yeah, during that session.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, some of it is vibes. Like, I think for me, the most important thing when I'm interviewing someone is like, try to get a feel of like, not what does this person know, but like, would I like working next to this person every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So vibes.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely important that like, can they work in a lab safely? But like,
seems like something that can be taught, maybe. Or no.
Well, yeah, you have to have a lot of training.
Yeah.
Beforehand. Yes.
I mean, it's kind of similar with tattooing. Mm-hmm. Safety is important.
Yeah.
I've heard you say many times that you like really love your job.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite things about your job?
I really like the independence that I have. Like sometimes I wish that we could like pull the curtain back for a lot of the public on like what does like drug discovery really look like, especially recently with the pandemic and stuff. There's like so much misinformation going around and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's wild.
What, like, say more? What kind of misinformation that you see that would easily be?
I feel like I've encountered a lot more like anti-vaxxers and stuff like that than I ever thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
And
you mean like just out there in the public, like since the pandemic started,
right?
Okay, not like within your,
even within my like family, and yeah, I think just a lot of like really weird conspiracy theories. Like I feel like there's like definitely a lot of this sentiment that people don't trust like the vaccines, and they think it's because, you know, it's like
They don't know
a
what's in them.
secret tool that, and they don't know what the agenda is for the vaccine. But like, we live under advanced capitalism.
Right.
Like,
The agenda is capitalism.
the agenda is not to kill and subdue the people. We need, like, we need a worker surplus.
Yeah, that's
you know?
what I was saying. Like, there's no way they want to like kill us because they want us to keep working and making money.
Yeah. The fewer people that die, the better, because that means more worker surplus, right? And that, I think, is one part of it. And the other part of it is like the people like inventing and coming up with drugs in drug discovery, like, are regular people. Like, we're not. There isn't, like, no one's telling me, like, whispering in my ear, like, Big Daddy Pharma, like, make this thing because it's going to subdue the masses. Like, I'm just trying to like figure out what's going to work, what's going to be potent, what's going to be non-toxic, like, independently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, it's a little bit hard to talk to some people, especially in my family, who just are like convinced that, you know, evil pharma has a secret agenda. The agenda is just to make money off of you, not to, yeah.
Right. That seems to be the most obvious and
Yeah.
thing that is already like evil enough, right? Like taking people's freedom to frolic in the sun in order to make us like work very long hours for not enough pay, so people keep hustling. Like, that is evil enough. Like, we don't have to make up more evil schemes than that.
Yeah. It's not that complicated.
It's really not. People up there just want more money and power.
Yeah. I think, and there's just a lot of misinformation that goes around that. I think, like, at the beginning of the pandemic, I tried to like be a source of information for my friends and family, but at this point I feel like, you know, people are determined to like not know like what is healthy for themselves and to reject science and medicine. Mm-hmm. So now I don't try as hard. I'm going evil scientist, I guess.
I mean, it's also
like, sure, yep, trying to subdue you, have fun. And don't get it.
Right.
Enjoy.
Like fine, don't get it. You. I think though, you know, there's a part of me that feels I get that there's so much information out there and so much of it is false. Mm-hmm. Right? Like when you Google something now, you can't trust the first page of Google. Like, there's so much clickbait, there's so many articles that are literally there for the ads and not for, like, when I see something just like full of ads, you have to keep scrolling and scrolling. I just click all the way out. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, please leave me alone with your ads. Or really anywhere. Like, looking for information online have become fucking impossible.
Yeah, definitely. It's not like made easier for the public too, because like a lot of I don't know, like peer-reviewed studies on, say, for example, the vaccine or alternatives to it or treatments are behind a massive paywall too. And they're also behind like a big, I guess, knowledge requirement, like years of study. Like, you know, I can't like send a Nature article to, you know, a family member who knows nothing about science and trust that they'll be able to like read and understand data and tables on like, I guess as an example, one of my family members sent me an article that said coffee can kill the virus. And he was like, this is a real scientific article too. So I was like, all right, I'm trying not to like negotiate with people who are eating crayons, but I'll read this one.
And did you?
And I read it, and I read through it. I read even the data. Yeah, I read it, and basically it was a modeling study, which means that someone took a structure, like on their computer, a three-dimensional structure of the virus, and they, using basically like computer modeling, determined that coffee can interfere with like viral replication in some way. This is not like studied in any actual human. This was just
someone drew it essentially.
Yeah. This is on a computer.
Yeah.
And like modeling is a really valuable tool in my field, but it's not like exactly like how you can conclusively say this is our new drug, right? Because there's so much more to it than that. Like, you know, it's like if I make a drug because it models well, then I have to make sure that it is safe, non-toxic, that it is potent enough in a small enough quantity. Like in this case, they did end up like testing it, I think, on maybe a mouse or something. And the activity that they were saying that it had, like that it was so potent it'll kill the virus, like would amount to maybe drinking like 6 gallons or something in a day, which to me is like not really.
I feel like it will kill anything if you drink 6 gallons of coffee.
Exactly.
You will be dead. Like it will kill you.
Like you have to think about like toxicity. You have to think about like, is it
the
even...
acidity in your stomach would be so horrible for digestion.
Yes. Yeah, there's too many.
Wouldn't it give you like a heart attack?
Knobs you have to turn to just say like this kills virus.
Well, I'm also curious that. Okay, so the eating of the virus is not a thing. Like we used to think like getting groceries was an issue. Like early in the pandemic, we didn't know, right? We like wiped down our groceries before we took them in the house. And then we found out that stomach juices would kill the virus even if we swallowed it on something. So how would that be even relevant with something that you ingest through the stomach? Virus that goes into your lungs through your nasal passages versus something you ingest as a liquid. Like how would that even make any logical sense at all? How would they even come together in your body?
That's a good question, and I don't think that I have like a fairly digestible answer for it, because it's the same way that like say antiviral pills work, right? So like HIV is a virus, we take pills for it. So when you like take a medication or ingest something, it will go into your stomach into first, your but it'll eventually be absorbed into your liver, go in your bloodstream, and get to hopefully where it needs to go, right? Like, you know, same reason there's antidepressant pills. Like, how does this get to your brain when
through
you
the blood,
just ate it, right?
Yeah, I guess like that makes sense to me, through the blood.
Yeah.
But okay, all right.
But it's more about like, we'll call something potent, like a drug, if you can take under a rule of thumb, 500 milligrams of it, and it will be effective. But if you have to take like significantly more than that, like 6 gallons, I would call that dead. Like I would say that's not active.
Did you try to explain that to your family member who sent you the article?
I did, and I did some like very rough back of hand, like even calculation for him. And he said thank you and never spoke to me about it again, and then later sent me another weird article.
Which you ignored?
I ignored it after that. I was like, this is kind of a waste of my time, but don't get the vaccine then. Fine.
Yeah. So
your choice.
When you like, do you have any friends that are anti-vax, or just family?
I don't know that I have friends that are like openly telling me they're anti-vaxxers, but I have friends who are definitely like suspicious about the vaccine, suspicious about COVID in general, feeling unsure, definitely. And
have you had those conversations with them, or you just know that that's where they're at, and like there's not much you can say?
I guess I've tried a little bit, but some people it's kind of where they're at, and I don't think people are wrong to feel like suspicious and mistrustful of like large pharmaceutical companies. I think just like it's sort of misplaced. It's for the wrong reasons, you know? Yeah.
What do you want to say to them? Speak to the world through this microphone.
I mean, I feel like any of these massive companies, pharmaceutical or not, like the evil part of them is the profit, not the, like, yeah.
Not the science.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit hard to work in a field where, you know, like, I'm just trying to, like, learn how to do something that will help and save people, and then, like, see so much messaging from people, like, absolutely rejecting it.
Mm-hmm.
Just being like, this is evil, don't take it, right? Like, imagine being the person who invented the vaccine, right? Which has prevented probably like millions of deaths, right?
Yeah.
And then people are like, don't take it, it's bad, it's evil. It's like, man, yeah.
I mean, enough of us took it.
This is thankless in some ways. Yeah. That's a little bit frustrating.
We have to wrap it up real soon. It's 2 p.m.
Yeah, it's okay.
And the thing I'm thinking about is probably a bigger conversation. But that, how do you reconcile the good work of what you're doing with the being behind the scenes of like this capitalist venture, right? Because there's like big pharma has the sin of capitalism behind it, but you're also doing this like very good work that's saving lives. Like how do people like you, not asking you to speak for everybody, but just whatever you can say to that. I'm really curious about that because I know other people who have been in pharma, some of whom have made a lot of money from it and some of whom, you know, haven't necessarily, but
yeah.
And like, that's not to say that people who do the work shouldn't be making a lot of money. Like by all means, you know, get your cake. But how do you reconcile that within yourself as like somebody who is a very compassionate person in general and that cares about the world? And
yeah, it's fair. I mean, I think anywhere I go would have the sin of capitalism behind it. So part of it is that.
That's true. Yeah.
I think besides that, chemistry is really, really fun to me. And, you know, like the tinkering, the research, the sort of like, I spend a lot of time, you know, like trying to figure out why something didn't work. And I think that's really fun. The workflow, it's like a kind of job that I can, for, you know, years now, go and just get really sucked into and not think about anything else all day. Yeah, I like the puzzles involved in it. And I think it is ultimately like good work. Like it does save people. Drugs do save people. Yeah.
Would you say you're somebody who loves humanity?
I guess so. I mean, I could go work for like Raytheon or something, which like I'm not doing.
What is that?
They make weapons.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also need chemistry for that, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. And I have no desire or plans to do that. That seems like pretty obviously more evil.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, making weapons, pretty evil. And at this point, we ended the interview because we had to go see Mean Girls. We were meeting friends to see Mean Girls at the movie theater. About a day later, Bella texted me to tell me that I forgot to ask her what is a small thing that's been making her happy lately. And I said, you're right. I haven't recorded an interview in about a month and I forgot to ask you that. What I miss. And she said, well, it's my orchid. It's blooming and it's making me happy. And I love that answer. I love when people actually offer me a small thing because I think that that's a place our happiness lays, or is it lies? That's where our happiness lives, in the small moments, in the small pleasures, in the small things that make us happy. I think it's easier to locate the happiness in the small moments. And I think it's really important to notice it. And with that, have a good week.